Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gene's Reviews, movie reviews from a regular dude. I'm doing something different today. I'm gonna post a video response to the channel Forever Young. He actually sent me a message the other day, and I watched one of his videos, and it's 50 facts about me. So I'm gonna do some facts that you might not know about me. But I don't know if I'll get 50 of them or not. Anyways, I'm 57 years old, almost 58. I was born in northern Utah. I spent most of my life in Utah, but I've lived other places as well. I've lived in California. I went to grade school in Sunnyvale, California, also Redwood City, California. And we moved back to Utah after that. And then we lived in Yuma, Arizona for a while. I've lived in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've lived in Sacramento, California. I lived in Arkansas. It's a town called Vilonia, Arkansas, just outside of Conway, about 30-40 minutes from Little Rock. And by the way, I did not like Arkansas. And right now, I also lived in Arizona. I want to point that out. That's probably my favorite place that I've lived, is in Bullhead City, Arizona. It's right along the Colorado River, right on across the river from Laughlin, Nevada. It's about an hour and a half from Las Vegas. But right now I'm living in Oregon. Okay, I've had numerous different jobs in my life. I worked a lot of years at a meat packing plant. I drove truck for them, long haul for a year. I drove the little shuttle truck around the yard, back in the trailers, into the docks, things like that. I worked in what's called the box cooler, loading the trucks. I, at one point, was 280 pounds. I'm 5'8". And I got the job loading the trucks, and within about 3 months, I got down to 190 pounds. Now I'm about 220, 230, right in that area, and I've been there for probably close to 10 years. I do go to the gym daily. I go every day. All I do is I walk on the treadmill. I don't do any type of lifting or anything like that, but I can't run because I have neuropathy in my right foot, so I have a little bit of a limp. And I have a bad back also. So I just walk on the treadmill, and I put the incline up. And I do an hour every single day. On my days off, sometimes I'll go twice. So I'll end up doing a little bit more than an hour. Some of my hobbies, I wouldn't exactly call it a hobby, but I've always enjoyed acting and singing. I like all kinds of music, although I think as far as singing goes, I do the country music the best, or I also feel like I do the big band stuff pretty good, like the Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, stuff like that. I've done a lot of musicals. I was involved for a number of years with a playhouse in Bear Lake, Utah, which is about 40 minutes outside of Logan, where I lived. And I was probably with them for about 12 summers. It's called the Pickleville Playhouse. And in that, when I first started out with them, it was right out of high school, and they was doing a lot of melodramas. It was with the hero and the villain, and you boo the villain when he comes on stage, and you cheer for the hero and all that fun stuff, tying the girl to the railroad tracks, all that stuff. And as I got doing it during the years, most of the time I ended up playing the villain, believe it or not. And after a while, they switched to the musical melodramas. So we would do different musical melodramas. Now it's pretty much just straight musicals. The last thing I did with them was probably back in, I think it was around 2015. I was in a musical there called The Drowsy Chaperone, where I played Underling, which is basically the butler. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed being in the Pickleville Playhouse. I've done numerous other musicals and plays: Shenandoah, Brigadoon, Annie Get Your Gun. I did Shenandoah actually twice. I did it in high school, and then I did it again when I was probably 25, 26 years old. I might even have been as old as 30. I was also in The Music Man. I was one of the barbershop quartet, and I've done that musical twice also. I was involved with an agency in Salt Lake City, so I did go around and audition for a lot of movies and TV shows like Touched by an Angel. I auditioned for Touched by an Angel so many times I can't even count them all, but I never quite got on the show. I got called back a couple times, but I came like really close to getting this one part, but I ended up not getting it. I have done a lot of extra work, which is actually, it's pretty boring. Extra work really isn't all that, but it's a good way to get seen by the casting directors and everything. So I did do a lot of extra work. I had a few small speaking roles in some small movies. What I did the best at, honestly, was print modeling. Like I was Santa Claus, things like that, in a newspaper ad, and I did pretty good with that. Also with some commercials. I did a commercial for the Disney Channel, which was really good for me. I did a commercial for a company called PFF Bank and Trust, which is actually really good for me. And all of these came within like a month, and then it just completely dried up, and it was really hard for me to get anything after that. But that's the way it is. You just got to keep trying with it. But that's kind of my passion. I prefer acting over singing. I would love to be on Broadway doing like a stage play or something like that. Stage is my favorite. I absolutely love it. And I think I'm the best on stage. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Can't really think of too much more. Oh, some of the other jobs that I've had. I've had quite a few jobs. I worked, like I said, at that meat packing plant, and they also had what's called a rendering plant, where they take care of all of the, now this is kind of gross, but they take care of all of the bones and the blood and the hoofs and all that stuff from the meat packing plant, and they render it for dog food and different things like that. And I actually worked cooking the blood. It's kind of interesting, actually. It starts out like blood, liquid, but by the time you end up cooking it, it's in a powder form. I had a little mishap one night after I first started working in there, and this was probably one of the worst jobs I ever had. I really didn't like working there, but the mishap was you had to run the blood through all these filters, and I forgot to turn the pump off, and I opened up the big filter, and all this blood just came out, went in my mouth, in my hair, all over my clothes. I actually only lived like 3 blocks away from the plant, and I had no clothes to change into or anything like that. I actually drove home in my underwear because I was just covered in blood from head to toe. So I took some old coveralls there, laid them out in my car, and drove home in my underwear and showered, and then went back to work. That job sucked. I hated that job. And it was extremely hot in there too. I mean, like well over 100 degrees all the time. It was miserable. But that's probably the worst job I've ever had. I also worked at a fitness plant building exercise equipment. That was okay. It wasn't too bad. Most recently, I waited tables. I love waiting tables. I worked for Walmart for about 9 years, and just recently I had to go back. So I'm back at Walmart now until I can find a job waiting tables, because that's what I've enjoyed the most out of all the jobs that I've had. And I actually, in less hours, made more money waiting tables. I feel like I was good at it. So that's what I'm trying to do. I also drove cab when I lived in Salt Lake. That was actually not a very good job either. I expected it to be a lot better, but it really wasn't that good, because a lot of the people you pick up they've tried to barter with you instead of paying their fee. I had one guy try to intimidate me, like threaten me and all this stuff, that because he claimed that he'd already paid me, but he hadn't. But he was just trying to intimidate me, and I wouldn't back down, and he finally just gave me the money and stormed out of the car, acted all mad and everything, but I know he was just trying to bullshit me. And I got propositioned a few times by women and men. So yeah, I didn't really like driving cab. I mean, there were some days that I would sit there for 12 hours and I would make like 20 or 30 bucks, because the dispatcher at the cab company, his brother was one of the cab drivers, so he would give his brother all of the good fares. It was pretty shady, actually, and it sucked because you had to rent the cab. You had to pay $65 to lease the cab for a 12-hour shift. Then you had to put the gas in it, which would have been about $25, $30 a day at the time. And then you had to pay $10 a day for an accident bond in case you got in a car accident or something like that. But so you'd have to make over $100 before you actually got any money at all. And there was one day I remember specifically, I went home with like 20 bucks after 12 hours. So it just got really depressing. There was other times that I did pretty good, but I never really did that great on it. That's about it. So if you like this video, let me know. Post a comment down below. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I will see you next time. Oh, and before I go, I'm going to put Forever Young's link down in the description. Check out his channel and subscribe to it. And I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and when you subscribe, tap that bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. See you next time. Yeah!